Hi, everyone. My name is Danny Thompson, and welcome to the Argo CD and Argo Rollouts community meeting. So I'm going to be the host of the meeting today, and just a little background on me. I'm a maintainer of Argo Rollouts and a software engineer at Intuit. So we have a pretty full schedule today, including 2 different demos, and then an exciting new Bootstrap committee proposal to kind of discuss an Argo Proj governance model. So with that, before we start, I want to kind of just touch a couple housekeeping items. First, I sent a link to the chat that has a meeting document. This has the schedule for the day and also a list of attendees. We'd love for you to put your name and company on this list, and also if this is your first time. So please do that. Additionally, before we start, I generally like to start these meetings with a kind of a quick overview of like, what is Argo CD and what is Argo Rollouts if this is your first time attending this meeting. So Argo CD is a Kubernetes native GitOps continuous delivery tool. And Argo Rollouts is a progressive delivery tool. And if you don't know what progressive delivery is, you can think of it as a evolution of continuous delivery, but with more of a focus on limiting the blast radius of your release. And so both of these projects live under the Argo Proj project, which is a CNCF incubating project. And we have this meeting, this community meeting, to provide a forum for our users and contributors to kind of have some dialogue about kind of different issues or kind of different like updates on the project, and also to kind of showcase different functionality. So if you have something that you would like to demo in a future community meeting, please feel free to reach out, most likely over the Slack channel, and we can then schedule you for the next meeting, which is every month, the first Wednesday of every month. And with that, if you have any questions, please feel free to post it in the Zoom chat or ask once we kind of open up for questions. And finally, this this Zoom is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube later. And so with that, we can dive into the meeting, and we have Jan to talk about Argo CD's new feature with GPG keys. Jan, are you ready to go?
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everyone from Germany. My name is Jan. I'm a contributor with Argo CD since mid of last year, I think. And I want to show you today the latest feature I've contributed to Argo CD, which is involving cryptographically verifying that the workloads you are pulling into your cluster are basically what they are supposed to be using GPG. And let me share my screen. So yeah, basically I've implemented a basic GNU-PG key management functionality, which you can find from the settings. So if you go into this module, you see I've not configured any keys yet. So I've prepared for today a key pair just for this demo purpose. So let's export the public key from GPG, copy, paste it. into the importer interface. So, and as you can see, we've now added a public GPG key, which we can now leverage to validate the Git commits with. Since it's implemented as a mounted config map, we probably have to wait for a few seconds just to see that it gets imported. So this is something Kubernetes specific. If you mount a config map to your pod and it gets updated, it needs a couple of seconds, up to 2 minutes, I think, until it gets synced. So this is something you have to keep in mind when you start configuring your keys. It's the same, by the way, with the TLS keys as well. So just a couple of more seconds. And then the repo server should tell us that it found a new key and it has imported it into the keyring of the repo server. And now we can start and go ahead and configure a project, because it all revolves around configuring the project to validate or to enforce the validation of the commit signatures. So let's give it a short name. It's fine. Namespace. Want it to be able to deploy everything. And here comes now the new feature. So you can define a list of signature keys that are required for the commits to be validated with. So it already takes what is configured in the keys, and we can just create the project. And now we have the new project. So in order to demonstrate it, I've prepared a small repository. We can have a look into the repository. It has 4 commits. The latest commit, the head one, is an unsigned commit. The -1 is a commit I've signed with a key I just imported. And this is basically the default GitHub signature that GitHub gives you. So what happens now if I create an application from this repository? Oh, this is a nice new feature, auto create namespace. I actually love it. So we're now going to try and sync against an unsigned commit. Oops.
Oh, yeah, and I think in the project namespace was
Yeah.
plus instead of the star. Yeah.
Yeah. This can happen. Ah, it's a plus sign. So let's try again. So now this should work. Yes. So it created the new application, and if we go and have a look into it, you already see there's one error, and this error tells you that it tries to sync against a revision that is found to be not signed, but we have now required to validate the signature for the revisions we want to sync against. So what we can do now is we can just either create some new commit, which is signed. So, okay. So if we now check the Git log, we see that our latest revision actually has a good signature that I just have made. And if we now do a refresh, I think, oh yeah, okay. So the error is gone now, and we can try to sync. And it actually syncs now. If we now go ahead and if we just go ahead and change the version back and make an unsigned commit. So let's do a refresh. The page as well. So we see we are out of sync. So it managed that. It managed to check that we are out of sync, but we have again the error. So it was not signed, but a signature is required. If we now try to sync, so it gives us the sync error, and with the reason that the target revision is not signed. Yeah, that's about it. So we can, of course, go ahead and let's see, go back to maybe this revision. So then we are in sync again. Of course, the sync error is still existing because it was the last sync attempt. And if you hover over the sync status, you can also see that that the revision, the target revision we are about to sync again, or that we are synced to, is has a good signature with the key ID, and you can get rid of the error just by resyncing. So then everything is green again. Yeah, that's about it. There's extensive documentation for this feature. It comes with the version 1.7, so I hope anytime soon. Yeah, and I'd be glad if people are starting to use it, give feedback, have maybe enhancement ideas for it. I've already talked to some people who were asking about, like, can we require 2 signatures from 2 people or whatever, stuff like that. I'm happy to discuss that. Yeah. Oh, and of course, everything possible in the UI is also implemented in the CLI. So yeah, just at the documentation, and yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that demo. I think that's a really good new feature from a security perspective. And it looks like we have a question. So there's a question, is there a way to control who can add GPG keys?
Pardon, I didn't understand the question. Like,
sure, I'll clarify. So the question is, usually Argo has, in the config map, you can say who can, for example, deploy a certain application or project. I think it's a project. Is there a way to say, well, this GPG key can be used for this project only, or like only this group of people can add GPG keys and somebody can't, and so on?
Good question. Yeah. So for adding or for managing the keys, there are role-based access control rules. It's I think somewhere documented it, but there's the new not subject, or the resource type GPG keys for the RBAC configuration, and you can actually configure in the project. So it's not on a per application base, but in the project you specify which keys are required or are allowed in this, or for all the applications that are associated to this project. Did this answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I think since we have a couple other topics that we want to make sure we have time for, I'm going to move on to the next demo. Thank you, Jan, again. That was a really awesome demo, and I'm excited to see it start to get some traction. With that, Karina is going to do a demo of Argo Rollouts and its new integration with the SMI, or Service Mesh Interface. Karina, are you good to go?
Yeah, I'm good to go. Let me just share my screen. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Karina. I am a software engineer on the Argo Rollouts team, and today I'll be discussing the SMI feature that I created for Argo Rollouts. So some background in Argo Rollouts: without any traffic management tools, when we performed a canary deployment, we weren't able to use fine-grained traffic routing. Kind of the percentage we were able to route to a service depended on the number of pods that were running. For example, if there were 10 pods total and the user specified 15% in their canary step, there's no way to take 15% of 10 pods. So we had a best effort approach to try to approximate the closest percentage to the one the user specified. So now we do integrate with a few external tools in order to allow fine-grained traffic routing. We currently support Istio, Nginx, ALB, and now we support SMI as well, which is what I'm telling you more about today. So SMI stands for Service Mesh Interface. It's a standard interface for service meshes in Kubernetes. It's used by different service mesh implementations like Linkerd in order to manage splitting traffic. So SMI accomplishes this by using a custom resource object called a traffic split. So let me show you kind of a traffic split spec over here. So a traffic split object has a root service, and the purpose of the root service is to provide an endpoint that applications can communicate with. And a traffic split object also has a list of backend services with a specified weight, and the service mesh uses the backend specified to kind of route the traffic accordingly. So for Argo rollouts, we use Canary and stable services as the backends. And over here in this example, the Canary weight is set to 5, the stable weight is set to 95. So this diagram up here built on the traffic split example I just showed you. The Argo rollouts controller creates a traffic split object. The client communicates with the root service to send traffic to the backends. And using the service mesh, it sends 5% of the traffic to the Canary service and 95% to the stable service. So the way you can use SMI is you just need to add an SMI field in the Argo or in your rollout spec. And when you do that, the rollout controller will create a traffic split object. And as the rollout goes through the Canary deployment steps, it will dynamically modify the traffic split object to change the different weights according to whichever Canary step the rollout is on. So I'm just going to give a quick demo to show you how this works. So here's a rollout that I have already created in this cluster. Let me show you the spec. So as you can see, I have the SMI field here, and I also have Linkerd enabled for this rollout. So I have a Canary strategy, and it has a step with a weight of 5. So I also have an Nginx ingress on this cluster to route traffic through Linkerd. So let me show you the traffic split object now. So when I created this rollout with the SMI field, the controller also created this corresponding traffic split object. So right now the Canary deployment hasn't started. So for the backends, the weight for Canary is 0 and the weight for stable is 100 because all the traffic is going to the stable service. So I do have a visual representation for this demo. I'm sure you guys have seen this before for literally any Argo rollouts demo we've ever done, but each dot represents a request to the rollout and the rollout returns a color. Right now it's returning blue, but I'm going to change the color to yellow. Okay, I'll let that progress. And while that's progressing, let me just show you the traffic split. Okay. Okay, yeah, you can see now that a few of the dots have turned yellow, approximately 5%. And now the traffic split object has been updated. So the weight for Canary is 5 and the weight for stable is 95. So it's important to note that for this demo, I am only running 2 pods. So the SMI feature has in fact allowed me to use fine-grained traffic routing for my rollout. Yeah, and that concludes this demo. I think if you want to try this out yourself, we do have an SMI example on our Getting Started page. So feel free to play around with this and we'd love to hear your feedback. And that's it for the demo.
And this is part of the upcoming release. So if you actually do want to try it now, you'll have to use the latest image tag of rollouts, which we build with every commit to get your hands on it.
Any questions? Looks like no. Well, thank you, Karina, for that awesome demo. I'm really excited to see kind of some of the usage from the different users, because I know some people have been asking for a Linkerd integration. And so with that, I think we can move on to our next topic, which is the initial Bootstrap committee to set up a Argo Proj governance. So in the meeting doc, we have a link to a PR that kind of talks through kind of like an initial discussion of what we imagine that Bootstrap committee will look like. And we wanted to set up some time to kind of talk through it and answer any questions that people might have. And so that, I think Jesse took over the screen, and I'll kind of hand it off to him. Or Ed, sorry, Ed.
No problem. Hi, everyone. Yeah, this is a very exciting time for the Argo project. Of course, we recently joined the CNCF as an incubation level project. And since then, we've actually seen much faster growth of the community after joining. And so we're really happy to announce that Red Hat has actually expressed interest in working with the Argo community to take the project to the next level. And actually there's a couple of folks from Red Hat's online right now, Ben and Shelbix, and I'd like to give them a chance to introduce themselves.
Sure, I'm Ben Browning. I'm happy to be here. Love the demos. This was a great first meeting actually to get to see some of the awesome things happening in the community. And you'll see me around, a lot of learning about the community role so that we make sure as the governance of Argo continues to evolve for the growth of the project that it stays, in the community's best interest and the community needs are met, so that the community will continue to thrive and grow. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Hey everyone, I'm Shobhik. As Ben said, I'm from Red Hat, and I'm glad to be here. It was exciting to see the demos today with such end-to-end good experiences. Thank you for that. I work on areas around CI, builds, and GitOps at Red Hat, and I love Argo CD and the Argo ecosystem of projects. I'm here with Ben and the other Bootstrap community members, and we would want to ensure that we can not only be good community citizens, but then we want to ensure that this community can scale from a user and as well as a contributor perspective. And feel free to ping me on Slack, GitHub, or other community meetings. Thank you. Okay. Back to you, Ed.
Hey, thank you, and welcome to the community. Oh, you've actually been a participant for some time, but thank you. So this PR, we created this PR with a draft of the initial kind of like charter and so on for the Bootstrap committee. Let's see here, very slow. To share with the community, our thoughts and what the purpose of the Bootstrap committee is, who are the members, what the goals of the committee are, and so forth. So of course, you've met Ben and Shelbik just now from Red Hat. Obviously, BlackRock has been a long-term partner with Intuit in terms of supporting the project, and they continue to be so. And I don't know if you've noticed, but Alibaba is also actually implementing the new application set feature. So they are driving, basically our leads for that product. And so, we will all be working together in order to kind of take this project to the next level and make sure that the community can grow, in an open and kind of well-ordered manner, so that PRs and things are, processed at a, reasonable rate, and the community's needs are met. So please take a look at this offline as you have the opportunity. And, if you have comments or suggestions or concerns, please add your comments to the PR. And of course, the committee will also be working very closely with Jesse, who is the overall lead for the Argo project, as well as the owners for the sub-projects. who are today Alexander Matushensev. He's the lead for Argo CD. Alex Collins, lead for Argo Workflows. Vaibhav Page, lead for Argo Events, and Danny Thompson, the lead for Argo Rollouts. So we'll be working very closely with the maintainers as well as the community to make sure we do this in a open and smooth way. So thank you very much. If you have any additional questions, please feel free. So this is very exciting.
I really agree about the exciting part. It is exciting for contributors because
additional partnership here. The PRs have been going up, a lot.
Yes, with so many users, we needed a lot of other companies to participate. So yes, thank you so much, Red Hat, for signing up.
And also individually, if you'd like to become a maintainer or interested in becoming a maintainer, please reach out on the Slack channel to the other maintainers.
Yep, and we have a good show up of Red Hatters on this call today. We are extremely excited to be joining efforts and ensuring that we have a vibrant community out there.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the partnership with Red Hat. So obviously they've been working in open source for a really long time, and I feel they've done a really good job of managing their projects. So really happy to be working with Red Hat, as well as of course BlackRock and Alibaba. Would you like to say something, Jesse? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm also very excited about this collaboration. As we've grown the project, one thing that's been really challenging for our team has been scaling the project, including keeping up with all of the community needs, whether that be Slack or just timely responses to issues and PRs. And since with Red Hat, this is not their first rodeo. They've had lots of experience. Even all the ongoing discussions that we've had with Red Hat is very telling that they had a very systematic process in place. They drew from a lot of experience with their other projects, and I feel in order to get to that next level, graduating the Argo project, this is the steps that we need to take to get there. So yeah, I'm super excited about this, and yeah, can't wait to see what comes next.
Alex Collins, would you like to say something?
I think everybody kind of knows that we really thrive on the contributions of the community, and it's just really fantastic to have, really impressive companies at the front of this. And I hope it's going to give really a great deal of confidence in the project and new items and features we'll be working on in the future.
Great. And I'd also ask Vaibhav, but I see he's not on because this is not the Workflows community meeting. So.
Yeah, let's do an announcement on the other committee meeting as well. We'll show up there as well so that we can socialize in that.
Okay, yep, that'd be great.
Yep.
Anyone else have any other questions? Okay, back to you, Danny.
Yeah, so if you have any questions now or in the next 20 minutes, or if you have any questions later, either feel free to speak up now or also to comment on the PR. And so we're really excited to see where this takes us, and we think this is kind of the next steps to really take the project to the next level. And so right now, the last topic we have for discussion is just asking kind of for an update on the application set. So I'm gonna let Jesse for this one.
Actually, to be honest, I have not been able to keep up with the application set progress. There's been a lot of stuff going on internally that we've been trying to work on. So at this time, I'm sorry, I don't have updates on this. Is there anyone else that is currently working on that might be able to give updates?
One thing I will do, well, two things. So one, someone is asking for an explanation of what is the project, and the other thing that I'll do right now is I'll post a link to the Slack channel that we're using to discuss the application set. Jesse, do you want to take a crack?
To what application sets are first, and then and by the way, there is actually a dedicated channel for the feature, but just to go over what the application set is, I can start sharing my screen. So so fundamentally, there's the Argo CD has a challenge that by default, it deals very in fine-grained applications. So it basically, application is a pointer to a Git repo and a path inside that Git repo, and that's like your unit of deployment. The challenge that people have been facing is that, well, I have an application, but I want to install it in lots of places. So maybe I use Argo CD to manage lots of clusters, and I'd like that same application, say Prometheus Opera, deployed in all of the clusters managed by Argo CD. And so application sets are essentially sets of application defined in a similar way. And so it's a creator of applications. And the idea is that you would create this CRD called an application set, and it has a template. And this template is essentially the spec of an application. And the second component of the application set is called a generator. And essentially what a generator is how to iterate through a list of like variants between the applications you want to create. And there's many different types of generators that we're proposing. And for example, the first one that you might have seen is the cluster generator. And this is basically saying for every cluster that Argo CD manages, create an application for that using some fields and varying the fields like the cluster name or the cluster URL. But there's other ones that we're thinking of, like we want to traverse a Git repository. And sorry, let me find the example for that. So there's a Git generator where we would iterate like a Git repository and discover configuration inside that Git repository to use as the applications that the set creates. And in the future, there might be a web URL, like a web based one where we can retrieve configuration from HTTP URL and then use that as the input as the generator to the applications. So that's application sets in a nutshell. And then was there a second question, Danny?
It was just mainly asking for an update on it, but okay. I've also posted the Slack channel for application sets, the Git repo, and also kind of the proposal, just to provide more context for those who are kind of interested.
Yeah.
I was a little bit involved, and as far as I know, kind of the skeleton of a project was created. And last time I checked the repository, there was work related to Git generator implementation. And we had conversation about how to implement it, because you kind of need to reuse a little bit of existing functionality from Argo CD to clone the Git repository. And we agreed on reusing Argo CD repository server. And we basically found kind of a way to how to do it. And that's it. So the next step is to go ahead and implement the design.
So there's a question for a roadmap or time frame for when it will be available. And I think since this is a cross-company collaboration, we can't really, or at least we probably can't give a good update right this second, but I do think that's a valid question that we should kind of flesh out more, and we can kind of get back on that.
Yeah, Christina asked that in Slack also. So we'll work with Alibaba to get back. Yeah, because they're the main contributor.
We had conversation about, like in general, a roadmap of Argo CD, but that roadmap is kind of from, the Intuit team perspective. And our priorities right now is to complete 1.7, which includes a bunch of fixes. And the next step is to focus on scalability, because that's what really it's just a disaster for us right now, because usage keep growing and we need to support large clusters, multiple number of applications. And I guess Upset is right next, immediately after that. So basically first we need to support even managing thousands of applications, and then create application set project to manage these thousands of applications. So that's, and I feel like based on number of features, that it sounds like kind of 2 releases after 1.7. That's my rough estimate.
Right, there actually is, on the Argo CD side of things, in order to, so we actually imagine that when application sets arrive, it's going to explode the the number of applications that Argo CD needs to manage. Potentially, it will also encourage people to have more and more clusters getting managed with Argo CD. And then we anticipate, even currently, we're starting to feel some scale limitations of Argo CD. And so the next thing that we need to focus on from the CD front in 1.8 is actually increasing the scale of Argo CD to support the explosion of growth that we see caused by application sets. There's some kind of legwork on both sides. Application sets is being developed independently, but to support it, we need to do some work on the CD front. Eventually, the goal is actually app sets would be first class citizens inside Argo CD.
So there's a follow-up question of when the 1.7, when do you estimate that the 1.7 release will come out?
We have, I think, 2 open PRs and then 1 known bug, which we're supposed to fix. After that, we start testing, and I would expect first release candidate with probably some bugs sometime next week, like maybe Tuesday, Thursday. And then usually we just, even if we have no bugs, we usually let release candidate to just, be used by the community, and we wait for bug reports for another week at least, or 2. So that's, just in case, I posted in the chat a link to a roadmap draft pull request, and I think it could change basically. But it was created mostly from Argo CD team, so Intuit team perspective. And, with collaboration with Red Hat, we might kind of reprioritize some of those items and change the roadmap.
I updated the milestone for 1.7, Alex, to next week.
Thank you.
And so I think maybe one thing that we can do from the Argo project team is create some issues in the application set to kind of help provide more of that visibility of the remaining work, and that could maybe help merge the gap between of kind of where we are versus what we need to do to get to a release of the application set.
Yeah, and I encourage people to join the AppSet channel. And I'll post a link to that in a second.
It's already in there.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, so there was a question saying, good to know about the focus for Argo CD. What would you say the focus for Argo Rollouts is? So right now we are doing the final touches on the 0.9 release, which has a bunch of features in both validation, so kind of essentially ensuring that when you submit a invalid rollout, one, either gets rejected if it's completely invalid, or two, if something is misconfigured, it will kind of quickly highlight the issue to you. And then kind of looking forward, we are looking towards the kind of adding more integrations with kind of different expanding that validation to include things like a webhook for that validation. So before you even submit it into the controller, being able to do more advanced validation using a webhook or even like a CLI. And then going from there, you can take a look at our 1.10 milestone, which is looking to do more work towards kind of ephemeral canary labeling. So basically being able to add a temporary label to a pod for various metric collection to kind of make it easier to identify, and also more work on basically providing kind of like a webhook functionality in the sense of like being able to launch a webhook when your rollout reaches step 3 and send a Slack response, or if your rollout becomes degraded, send a Slack response or an email. And so kind of providing some tooling around there to make that easier to automate. So I'd say those are kind of the next steps for, or at least looking forward for Argo rollouts. With that, there's a question about partial app set functionality via custom config plugin. It renders out app set YAMLs. However, the problem is that it gets tricky to handle auto syncing of many nested apps or being able to see the final YAML ahead of time. Basically, it's describing a situation that it looks like this person was using the custom config plugin, which is a feature to basically allow you to provide your own binary to produce YAML. And this person was wondering if it's trying to address similar concerns.
It kind of yes and no. So we thought about it, and we decided to kind of split these two problems. First is, Upset is only going to manage application creation, but to kind of execute an operation on a bunch of apps, we are going to, it's a feature after Upset. We want to leverage labels and let you kind of apply the label to application group, and then hopefully, I think we're going to add a feature into the UI so you can specify a label and sync a bunch of applications, or you can, and all the type of operations which you can imagine, not just syncing, but also deleting and editing and so on. Yeah. So and the advantage of that approach is that even if you use app of apps pattern right now, you still can add the same label and use that functionality. And then if you want to move to Upset, then you basically just switch generator from custom plugin to Upset, and then UI still give you the same capabilities. So that's roughly the plan.
Yeah, and there's one actually feature of the app sets which deals specifically with the automated sync, the initial automated sync of applications. Because actually a common request and use case that the app VAPS pattern didn't address was that, well, I would like to, when I sync my parent app, I would like for everything to get created automatically instead of just syncing all of the things one by one. And so, because I don't want to use auto sync, but I just want that first one to get synced. And so that's been requested very commonly. And so the app set feature has, or will have a ability to perform that initial sync to solve that case where at least it'll get created for you automatically, but you don't have to resort to auto sync on the apps to get that initial sync.
And there
Awesome.
is
So it looks like
one.
go ahead.
Daniel. I just had one last update, and it's related to app of apps pattern. And we heard multiple times that applications might have dependencies, and we so far we consider two approaches. One is to try to introduce explicit dependencies between applications, so that if you sync one application and if you have a dependency, it would automatically trigger syncing of your dependency. That was one approach. And the second approach, it's kind of, it's not necessary. We still can have two, but in 1.7, we implemented simply retries of failed syncs, and hopefully it will cover a lot of use cases. And the most typical use case is if you're trying to install Istio, there are two Helm charts. One creates only CRDs, and second create, instances of these CRDs, these CRs. And in 1.7, if you try to use autosync with those two charts, most likely one would fail because if you try to create CRs before CRD exists, it's a failure. But in 1.7 with retries, basically the second application, which depends on CRDs, it will try to sync first time, it will fail, and then it will just retry. And hopefully it seems to be, hopefully it will be enough to cover, like 99% of use cases. And then going forward, we can consider still dependencies between apps. I'm done. Danny, back to you.
Nice. So at this point, we've kind of gone through all of the discussion topics, and we have about 4 minutes left. So if anyone has kind of a quick question about something that they want to that's top of mind, please feel free to ask now. Otherwise, I'll give you 4 minutes back. Another 10 seconds. Looks like there are no other questions at the moment. Well, thank you for attending this community meeting for Argo CD and Argo Rollouts. This is being recorded, so we will upload it in the next
like
couple.
Danny, but
oh. Looks like my internet might be cutting out, but thank you for attending the meeting. Have a great day and cheers.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Danny. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.